Hi guys, this is Max here, back again with hopefully another great political video. And today we're going to take a little look at redistricting here in these United States of America. Now, there have been a couple of states that certified their electoral maps, their congressional maps, since our last video. One of them being Utah. They basically just made this one district that used to be likely a Republican, actually saw a Democratic representative elected from there in 2018, now be a safe Republican district. Now, I'm talking very fast in this video because there's lots of content we got to go through, and I do not want to miss out on anything. Now, California's congressional map looks a bit more like this. Now, there are a couple of kinda likely but mostly safe districts in the more rural parts of the state, but California districts usually tend to be more Republican than they tend to be Democrat. Like congressional districts in California, they usually are more Republican on the congressional level than they're on the presidential level. There's only one Republican incumbent that might actually be threatened, which is Devin Nunes. He's now in a plus 5D district. Before that, he was in a plus 11R district. But I actually think that Devin Nunes is going to win along with David Valadao. He was previously in a lean Democrat district. Now it's a pure toss-up, and he's going to win it. Not pure toss-up, by 3%. David Valadao is going to win again. Mike Garcia might be in trouble. It used to be a plus 5D district. Now it's a plus 8D. I do not know how he's going to fare, but in a Republican-friendly environment or even a Republican wave year, which 2022 might very well be, he's going to win again. Other than that, I think California's 52nd, 2nd, and 48th district are actually going to flip. Katie Porter will almost certainly lose re-election, but Michelle Steele and Young Kim will win again, especially since their districts, I believe they got more Republican compared to how they were before. Yeah, they did. Now, anyway, so California will see an increased amount of Republican representatives, just as a side note. Now, there is another state that proposed a new congressional map, which is Florida. Republicans are in charge of the Florida Redistricting Commission, but I do not really see too many gerrymanders. They did add an additional district to the Tampa Bay area, so that'll be the 15th. That's brand new. But other than that, there's not really a big gerrymander going on. I mean, Florida's 7th is now closer than it was before, but on the other hand, Florida's 9th got a lot more Democrat. The only thing that Republicans really edged out in their favor was Florida's 22nd district with Ted Deutsch. That is now a plus 6D district. It used to be like a plus 10. So I actually think this one's going to flip in 2022. We'll have a very urban district having a Republican representative. Now, other than that, are there any new proposals? Yep, indeed there are. There is one from Maryland. Good old Maryland. I thought they were going to get rid of the gerrymander by having a more accurate representation, a better map that's more accurate, that does less cracking, that is less of a nightmarish fuckover like the old one was. For example, yeah, this actually looked good because it had two safe Republican districts, basically. And yeah, actually, Maryland should have two Republican districts, and it should have like 7 Democratic districts, because that's a accurate representation of the voting pattern. But no, it isn't. It's basically just a horrible gerrymander. And the Maryland Democrats might actually go with that again, because I believe in Maryland Democrats are in charge of the redistricting process. They made a few bad proposals, like this one here, which is supposed to give the Democrats all of Maryland's districts and make one very competitive. But if you look at these numbers, D plus 9 and D plus 9 here, this one could, and D plus 14, D plus 12, there is not a very high chance, but there certainly is a chance that maybe these 4 districts here could go Republican in a very good year for the Republicans, and that'd be disastrous for the Dems, so I don't think they're going to go with that. Maybe, and it's perhaps the most likely thing, the Maryland Democrats will go with something like this, where there'll be one competitive district, and other than that, there'll be one likely to safe Republican district. But I really hope that Maryland gets rid of its gerrymander. It was really horrible. Now, I already pointed out in a previous video how terrible Illinois' gerrymander is, but assuming that it will be a plus 5 or a plus 7 or a plus 10 Republican environment, this map also could see lots of red districts springing up all over suburban Chicago, and that would not work well in the Democrats' favor. Now, other than that, I do believe North Carolina certified its electoral map. I already talked about this in a previous video. What we could take a look at is Wisconsin, because now it seems to become more and more evident what they're going to go with. It'll probably be something like this, which doesn't change too much from the previous map, with the exception that this district, the third, which has been reliably Democrat since, I believe, since the 1970s or the 1960s, and that had Ron Kind as its representative, who did not even face an opponent back in 2012, this district is actually going to flip. And if you're ever looking for a blue-collar, working-class district that was always voting for the Democrats and that has shifted right during the Trump era, Wisconsin's third is what you're looking for. Anyway, now let's talk about a few other bad gerrymanders. Not New Hampshire isn't the most terrible gerrymander out of all, but Republicans are in charge of the redistricting plan in New Hampshire. And what New Hampshire used to do until now was they basically had two very competitive districts, because New Hampshire as a state is very competitive. That makes lots of sense. But Republicans in New Hampshire, they don't want to win both, which I think they would if they go with a Democratic plan. They want to have one reliably Republican district for the foreseeable future, and so they'll likely go from two competitive districts to one likely Democrat and one likely Republican district. It's very simple. Now, so far, I believe those are all notable changes to the redistricting process. Michigan is really one that interests me a lot, because there's many different ways how this could end up going. For example, in one proposal, the Grand Rapids area is being pushed into one big Democratic district. In another proposal, it's being split up into two likely Republican districts. And in a very last proposal, it's being made into one competitive district and one very Republican district, and the Detroit suburbs get one pretty Republican district too. Now, anyway, the old Michigan map did not look as nice as you could think. It was a Republican gerrymander, but at the time, these districts here were pretty solid for the Republicans, and the working class districts were more favorable to the Democrats. So, it's a weird looking map, I believe, but it was not the worst by far. Alright, now, I believe that's it. I hope you guys, got to see some of the newest proposals in terms of the redistricting process. We are on the best track of seeing this map here in Arizona, but overall, redistricting seems to be going in favor of the Republicans. Both Republicans and Democrats are doing gerrymander this time around, but with the exception of Illinois, for example, and you could say to a certain degree like Maryland, for example, we're not really seeing any really bad gerrymanders, not even in North Carolina. I mean, this map does favor Republicans, but it doesn't look so horrific. And even Texas, which has some pretty oddly shaped districts, like the 24th, for example. I want to zoom in on this very quickly. Yeah, this one looks just bad, but even though Texas has very poorly shaped districts, it doesn't go as aggressively in terms of grabbing Democratic districts as it could be. In fact, it solidifies many Democrats in districts that are now fairly competitive. But again, overall, I was pleasantly surprised by how few gerrymandering took place in this election cycle, with before mentioned exemptions like Illinois, Maryland, and these two states. But in general, it was a fairly fair redistricting. And Democrats in very blue states and Republicans in very red states, like for example in New York and Nebraska, they did not do as bad as they could have done. And I think that is one very positive aspect of the next congressional redistricting, because fewer gerrymandering means more power to the people, less power to politicians, and that's what democracy should be all about. Now, hope you guys like this video. Likes, comments, and subscriptions are greatly appreciated. And I hope to see you guys next time. Max out.